I found plane tickets for two. Our 13-year-old said, "Mom, they're for Dad and Aunt Shelby." I asked him how he knew. He smiled and said, "I have a surprise for you." The surprise? It left me breathless. Hello everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin my story, I'd love to know which city you're joining us from. Please feel free to share in the comments. Now, let me take you into this story. My hands were trembling so hard I could barely hold the piece of glossy paper. It wasn't just a piece of paper, it was a booking confirmation. A one-way ticket to the destruction of my entire life. It started like any other quiet Saturday morning here in Connecticut. The house was silent, that large, echoing silence you get in a home that's too big for three people, especially when the warmth has seeped out of the walls years ago. Mark, my husband of 17 years, had left early for what he called a critical networking brunch with potential investors. He was always networking. Always chasing the next big deal, always needing to maintain appearances. I decided to do something I hadn't done in months. I went into his home office to clean. Mark had a strict rule about his office: "Don't touch my papers, Diane. You don't understand the filing system." He always said it with that patronizing smirk, the one that implied I was just a simple housewife who couldn't comprehend the complexities of his genius. But the door was ajar, and the smell of stale coffee was wafting into the hallway. It was driving me crazy. I walked in, wrinkling my nose. It was a disaster. Coffee-stained mugs, piles of unopened mail, snack wrappers. It didn't scream successful businessman. It screamed chaos. I started with the desk, tossing junk mail and stacking folders. That's when I saw it. The bottom drawer of his mahogany desk was slightly open. It was usually locked, but the latch must have jammed. Curiosity is a funny thing. It warns you before it hurts you. My gut twisted, telling me to walk away, to go back to my garden, to pretend I didn't see it. But I couldn't. Under a stack of old tax folders, something bright red caught my eye. I pulled it out. It was a thick, heavy envelope. High quality. Not a business document. I opened the flap, my breath hitching in my throat. Inside were two first-class plane tickets on Delta Airlines. Departure, JFK, New York. Destination, Santorini, Greece. Date, 2 weeks from today. Santorini. My dream destination. The place I had begged Mark to take me for our 10th anniversary, then our 15th. Both times he had sighed, rolled his eyes, and said, "Diane, be realistic. We can't afford that kind of luxury right now. The market is down." Yet, here they were. First class. Along with a printed itinerary for a 5-star couples resort, the kind with private infinity pools and sunset dinners. I scanned the names on the tickets, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Passenger 1, Mark Carter. Passenger 2. It was blank. The second name field on the printed confirmation was just a placeholder guest. But tucked behind the itinerary was a handwritten note on hotel stationery. It was Mark's handwriting, unmistakable in its sharp, jagged slant. "Can't wait to finally be free with you in paradise. No nagging, no hiding. Just us. Greece is just the beginning." I sat down heavily in his leather executive chair. The room spun. No nagging. No hiding. He wasn't taking me. He was taking someone else. But who? Was it a colleague? A stranger? Are those the tickets to Greece? The voice made me jump. I spun around, clutching the papers to my chest. Caleb, my 13-year-old son, was standing in the doorway. He was wearing his oversized hoodie and holding a can of soda, looking at me with an expression that unsettled me. He didn't look surprised. He didn't look scared. He looked bored. Caleb, I managed to choke out, trying to hide the envelope. I was just cleaning up Dad's office. He walked into the room, his eyes fixed on the red envelope in my hand. You don't have to hide it, Mom. I saw them last week when he left them on the dashboard before he locked the car. My mouth went dry. You saw them? Yeah, Caleb said, taking a sip of his soda. They're for Dad and Aunt Shelby. Obviously. The world stopped. Shelby. Mark's cousin. The woman I had welcomed into our home. The woman I had cooked for, lent money to, treated like a younger sister. My stomach lurched violently. Caleb, honey, I whispered, my voice trembling. What are you talking about? Aunt Shelby is family. Dad wouldn't. Caleb sighed, a sound far too old for a 13-year-old boy. He walked over to me and gently took the envelope from my shaking hands. He placed it back on the desk. She's not family, Mom, he said calmly. And Dad isn't going to a networking brunch. He's at the jewelry store at the mall, picking up a custom necklace for her. Then they're going to the Rosewood Hotel for lunch. I stared at him, unable to process the level of detail he just provided. How do you know that? Caleb looked me dead in the eyes. A small, cold smile played on his lips. It wasn't a happy smile. It was a smile of someone who held all the cards. Because I've been watching them, he said. I have a surprise for you, Mom. A big one. But you have to promise not to freak out. Come with me. He turned and walked out of the room. I sat there for a second, paralyzed. My entire reality had just shattered into a million pieces, and my teenage son was standing over the debris, holding a shovel. Before I follow him, I want to take a moment to thank you for listening to my story. It's hard to relive this, but I know I'm not alone. If you're listening right now, please comment down below which city you're tuning in from. It helps me feel connected to you all. Now, let me tell you what my son showed me. I followed Caleb down the hall to his bedroom. My legs felt like lead. My mind was racing, trying to connect the dots. Shelby? My husband's cousin Shelby? It didn't make sense. She was at our Thanksgiving dinner. She helped me pick out curtains for the living room. She called me sis. Caleb's room was what you'd expect from a typical teenager: posters of video games, a pile of laundry in the corner, a half-eaten bag of chips on the dresser. But his desk was different. It looked like the control center of a spaceship. 3 monitors, a high-end mechanical keyboard, and a tangled web of cables that I never dared to touch. I knew Caleb was smart. He was the president of his school's robotics club and spent hours coding, but Mark always dismissed it. He's just playing games, Diane, Mark would say. He needs to get out and play football like a real man. Mark never bothered to ask what Caleb was actually doing on those screens. It turned out that was Mark's biggest mistake. Caleb sat in his gaming chair and woke up his computer. The screens flickered to life, displaying lines of code and several open windows. Mom, sit on the bed, Caleb commanded gently. I sat, clutching the hem of my cardigan. Caleb, you said you've been watching them. What does that mean? He spun around in his chair. You know how Dad always says I'm wasting my time on this computer junk? I nodded. Well, about 3 months ago, I needed to borrow his laptop because mine was updating. He was asleep on the couch. I guessed his password on the second try. It's just his birthday and money. Really secure, right? Caleb rolled his eyes. Anyway, I saw an email pop up. It was from Shelby. The subject line was missing your touch. I felt a wave of nausea. Oh, God. I didn't want to believe it at first, Caleb continued, his voice steady, analyzing the situation like a math problem. So, I installed a keylogger and a remote access Trojan on his laptop. And I put a tracker on his car. It's hidden in the wheel well. He'll never find it. I stared at my son. He was speaking a language I barely understood, talking about surveillance techniques like he was discussing homework. Caleb, is that legal? Doesn't matter, he shrugged. You need to know the truth. Look. He clicked a few keys. The center monitor changed. It showed a map of our town, with a blinking red dot moving slowly down Main Street. That's his car, Caleb pointed. He's heading toward the highway now. Probably going to meet her. But that's not the surprise. He opened a folder named Project Truth. Inside were hundreds of files. Photos, screenshots, video clips. I tried to tell you, Mom, he said softly, his bravado slipping just a little. Remember last month when I asked why Aunt Shelby was always here when you were at yoga? You told me to be nice. You trusted her. I did, I whispered, tears finally stinging my eyes. She told me she was lonely. She said she had no other family. She's a liar, Caleb said, his voice hardening. And Dad is worse. He's not just cheating, Mom. He's planning to leave. And he's planning to leave you with nothing. What do you mean, nothing? I asked, a cold chill running down my spine. I mean the money. The house. Everything Grandpa left you. Caleb turned back to the screen. I found a folder on his cloud drive labeled Exit Strategy. I haven't cracked all the files yet, but I saw drafts of legal documents. He wants to prove you're mentally unstable so he can get full custody of me, not because he wants me, but so he doesn't have to pay child support. The air left the room. My husband wanted to paint me as crazy? The man I had supported for nearly 2 decades? The man whose debts I paid off when we first got married? He can't do that, I stammered. I'm sane. I'm a good mother. I know you are, Caleb said fiercely. But he's been planting seeds. Remember when he told Dr. Stevenson you were having memory lapses? Remember when he told your friends you were overwhelmed and confused lately? My hand flew to my mouth. I remembered. I thought he was being concerned. I thought he was worried about my stress levels. It was all a setup. Gaslighting. He was building a case against me, brick by brick, while sleeping with his so-called cousin. We have to stop him, I said, a sudden surge of anger replacing the shock. We will, Caleb promised. But you can't confront him yet. If you scream at him when he comes home, he'll deny it. He'll delete everything. He'll hide the money. We need to be smarter. He looked at me with an intensity that terrified and reassured me at the same time. I have a plan, Mom. But you have to trust me. Can you do that? I looked at the screens, at the blinking red, at the folders of evidence my 13-year-old son had gathered to protect me. I wiped my tears. Show me everything, I said. Before we dove into the digital evidence, I needed a moment. My mind was pulling me back, dragging me through the mud of my own memories, forcing me to re-examine the last 5 years of my life. I needed to understand how I had been so blind. I remembered the night Mark introduced us to Shelby. It was a rainy Tuesday in November. Mark had called me from work, his voice thick with performative concern. Diane, honey, I have a situation. My cousin Shelby, you know, Aunt Marie's daughter? The one who ran away years ago? She's in town. She's in a bad spot. Abusive ex-boyfriend, lost her job. She has nowhere to go. Can I bring her over for dinner? Of course, I said yes. That's who I was. That's who I am. I'm the fixer. I'm the caretaker. When she walked through our front door, she looked like a drowned kitten. Big, wet eyes, soaking wet hair, shivering in a thin coat. She looked younger than her 27 years. My heart broke for her immediately. I rushed to get her a warm towel. I made her hot tea. I gave her one of my favorite cashmere sweaters, the beige one Mark had bought me for Christmas years ago. "Thank you, Diane," she had whispered, clutching the mug with both hands. "You're an angel. Mark always told me how wonderful you were." Lies. It was all lies. Over the next few months, Shelby became a fixture in our lives. Mark told me she needed help getting back on her feet, so I helped her. I reviewed her resume. I connected her with a friend who owned a boutique for a job interview. When she couldn't make rent on her studio apartment, I wrote the check. "It's just a loan," Mark had insisted. "She's family. We help family." I never saw a dime of that money back. But it wasn't just the money. It was the insidious way she inserted herself into our marriage. She was always there. Holidays, birthdays, random Tuesday nights. I remembered the time we were all watching a movie. She sat on the floor, leaning her back against Mark's legs. He was absent-mindedly playing with her hair. I had felt a prick of discomfort then. "Isn't that a bit intimate?" I had asked Mark later that night in bed. He had exploded. "My God, Diane. She's my cousin. She's practically my little sister. You have such a dirty mind. It's disgusting that you'd even think that." He made me feel ashamed. He made me feel like a jealous, insecure shrew. I apologized. I bought him a new watch to make up for it. And his parents. Mark's parents, Robert and Linda. They adored Shelby. They fawned over her at Thanksgiving. "Oh, Shelby, you're so vibrant," Linda would say, shooting a disapproving look at my comfortable slacks and sensible shoes. "You bring such life to this family." Did they know? The question hit me like a physical blow. Did my in-laws know that their niece was sleeping with their son? Or was the lie so deep that even they were fooled? Or worse, did they know Shelby wasn't really a cousin at all? Caleb's voice pulled me back to the present. "Mom? You okay? You're zoning out." I shook my head, clearing the fog of the past. "I'm just thinking about how much I helped her, Caleb. I gave her clothes. I drove her to the doctor when she had the flu. I confided in her about our marriage problems." Oh God. The marriage problems. I had told Shelby everything. I told her I felt Mark was distant. I told her I was worried our intimacy was fading. She had listened with those wide, sympathetic eyes, nodding and holding my hand. "Maybe you should try to give him more space," she had advised. "Men like the chase, Diane. Maybe you're being too available." She was gathering intel. She was finding my weak spots and feeding them to him. She was coaching him on how to manipulate me. "She played me," I said, my voice trembling with rage. "She played the victim, and I handed her the knife she used to stab me in the back." Caleb clicked on a file on his screen. "She's not a victim, Mom. Look at this." He opened a folder of photos. They were screenshots from Shelby's Instagram, a private account I didn't know existed. There was a photo of her wearing my diamond earrings, the ones I thought I had lost 2 years ago. The caption read, "He treats me like the queen I am." Finders keepers. I felt the blood drain from my face. I had turned the house upside down looking for those earrings. Mark had yelled at me for being careless. "You lose everything, Diane. This is why you can't have nice things." He had given them to her. "I'm going to kill him," I whispered. The sadness was evaporating, replaced by a cold, hard block of ice in my chest. "I am going to absolutely destroy him." "Good," Caleb said, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "Because wait until you see the emails." Caleb handed me the tablet. Read these from the bottom up. Start from January. My hands were steady now. The shock had passed, replaced by a clinical need to know the extent of the damage. I scrolled to the bottom. From Mark. To Shelby Babe 88 at. Date, January 12th. Subject, she's clueless. Don't worry about the credit card bill. I told Diane it was a charge for the business server maintenance. She doesn't know a server from a toaster. Buy the bag. You deserve it. I gritted my teeth. That bag was a Louis Vuitton. I remembered asking him about that charge. He had given me a 20-minute lecture on IT infrastructure until my eyes glazed over. He used my lack of technical knowledge as a weapon to steal from our joint account. I scrolled up. From Shelby. To Mark. Date, February 14th. Subject, Happy Valentine's. I hate that you have to take the old hag out to dinner tonight. Just imagine it's me across the table. Don't touch her. Save it for me tomorrow. Old hag. I was 48. I went to the gym 3 times a week. I took care of my skin. But to them, I was ancient. Disposable. From Mark. To Shelby. Date, March 3rd. Subject, the college fund. I managed to move another $15,000 from Caleb's 529 plan. Told the broker we were reallocating to a high-yield trust. It's in the offshore account now. That should cover the deposit for the condo. I stopped breathing. The world tilted on its axis. Caleb, I choked out. Did you see this? The college fund? Caleb looked at the floor, his jaw tight. Yeah. I saw it. That's why I started looking into the bank accounts. The fund is almost empty, Mom. There's less than $2,000 left. I felt a primal scream building in my throat. Cheating on me was one thing. Insulting me was another. But stealing from our son? Stealing his future? His education? That was a declaration of war. That was unforgivable. That was the moment Mark ceased to be my husband and became my prey. He stole $80,000, I said, my voice low and dangerous. That money was from my father's inheritance. It was specifically for your tuition. He doesn't care, Caleb said, looking up with wet eyes. He calls me the burden in other emails. He says once I'm 18, he's washing his hands of me. I reached out and pulled my son into a hug. He was stiff at first, trying to be the tough hacker, but then he melted into me, just a 13-year-old boy who had been hurt by the person supposed to protect him. He will pay back every cent, I promised into his hair. I swear to you, Caleb. He will not get away with this. I pulled back and looked at the screen again. I needed to see more. I needed enough ammunition to bury him. From Shelby. To Mark. Date, last week. Subject, Greece. I can't wait for Santorini. Finally, we can stop pretending. Are you sure she won't find the tickets? From Mark. To Shelby. Date, last week. Subject, Greece. She never goes in my office. She's too afraid of me. Besides, even if she found them, I'd just tell her they were a surprise for her, and then I'd cancel them last minute because of a work emergency. She believes whatever I feed her. She's pathetic. Pathetic. I stared at the word. It burned into my retinas. For years, I had believed I was lucky to have Mark. He was handsome, ambitious, charismatic. I felt lucky that he put up with me. I thought my role was to support him, to be the wind beneath his wings. I had made myself small so he could feel big. And this was my reward. Pathetic. I'm not pathetic, I said aloud. It was a realization, not a defense. I'm the one who balanced the books for his startup for 5 years for free. I'm the one who manages this estate. I'm the one who raised an honors student while he was out networking. You're not pathetic, Mom, Caleb said firmly. You're the smartest person I know. You just trusted the wrong person. Okay, I said, putting the tablet down. So we have proof of the affair. We have proof of the theft. But Caleb, there's something else. The cousin thing. Why lie about that? Why not just say she's a friend or a coworker? Caleb smirked. It was the smile of a hunter who had cornered the fox. That's the best part, he said. I did a reverse image search on some old photos I found on Shelby's cloud drive. And I found her real identity. She's not a Miller. Her name is Shelby Vance. Vance? The name sounded vaguely familiar. Yeah, Caleb said. And wait until you see where she went to college. Caleb minimized the email window and pulled up a browser. He had navigated to a digital archive site, one of those alumni library databases. University of Pennsylvania, class of 1998, Caleb announced. Dad's graduating class. He clicked on a PDF of the yearbook. He scrolled through the pages until he found the S section. And there she was. Younger, with less makeup and natural brown hair instead of the platinum blonde she sported now, but it was unmistakably her. Shelby Vance. She went to college with him? I asked, leaning in. Keep looking, Caleb said. He switched to the C section for Carter. He found Mark's photo. But then he clicked on a separate tab. It was a scan page from the university's student newspaper, the Daily Pennsylvanian. There was a photo of a homecoming king and queen from 1997. It was Mark and Shelby. They were holding hands, wearing sashes, beaming at the camera. They looked like the golden couple. They dated, I whispered. They dated in college. Read the caption, Caleb pointed. Power couple Mark Carter and Shelby Vance plan to conquer Wall Street together after graduation. They were together before I even met him, I realized. The timeline began to slot into place. I met Mark in 1999, a year after he graduated. He told me he was single, focused on his career. He never mentioned a Shelby. Why break up? I asked, more to myself than Caleb. I found that too, Caleb said. I found an old blog she used to write. It's archived on the Wayback Machine. She dumped him right after graduation because he didn't land the job at Goldman Sachs. She called him a failure and moved to LA to try and become an actress. She left him because he wasn't rich enough, I said, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. Exactly, Caleb nodded. And now that he's successful, thanks to your inheritance and your support, she wants him back. She failed as an actress, she's broke, and she sees Dad as her ATM. And Mark? I asked. Why take her back? She dumped him. Because he's obsessed with her, Caleb said with disgust. In his emails, he talks about her like she's the one that got away. He thinks getting her back proves he's a winner now. It's all ego, Mom. He doesn't love anyone but himself. It made sickening sense. Mark was a narcissist. Getting Shelby back was the ultimate validation. And I was just the placeholder. The woman who paid the bills and raised the child while he waited for his queen to return. The cousin lie was brilliant in its cruelty. It allowed him to bring her into our home right under my nose. It preyed on my kindness. It made me complicit in my own betrayal. Every time I hugged her, every time I gave her money, they must have been laughing at me. Wait, Caleb said, his face darkening. There's one more thing about Shelby you need to know. It's not just about the past. It's about why she hates you so much. Why? Because of the house, Caleb said. Look at this chat log. He opened a messaging app log. Shelby, I drove past the house again today while she was out. It's perfect, Mark. The gardens are exactly what I wanted. I can't wait to rip out those hideous hydrangeas she planted. We'll put in a pool there. Mark, soon, babe. Once the divorce is finalized, I'll get the house. She can't afford to keep it without my income. I'll force a sale, buy it out through the shell company, and it's yours. My blood ran cold. The hydrangeas. I had planted those with my father before he died. That garden was my sanctuary. It was the only place I felt peace. She didn't just want my husband. She wanted my life. She wanted my home. She wanted to erase every trace of me and step into my shoes as if I never existed. She wants to live here, I said, my voice trembling with fury. She wants to sleep in my bedroom, cook in my kitchen, and destroy my garden. Over my dead body, Caleb growled. No, I said, standing up. The last remnant of the sad, confused housewife evaporated. In her place stood a woman who had protected her family for 20 years and who was now ready to go to war. Over their dead bodies. Metaphorically speaking. What do we do next? Caleb asked. You said there was a video, I remembered. In the garage. Caleb hesitated. Mom, you don't need to watch that. It's graphic. I need to see it, I said firmly. I need to burn the image into my brain so I never, ever feel sorry for him again. Show me. The garage was dimly lit in the video footage. It was grainy, black and white night vision, but the resolution was high enough to see everything. High enough to break a heart. The camera was positioned on a shelf, hidden behind a stack of winter tires, angled perfectly toward the driver's side of Mark's BMW, the car I had bought him for his 45th birthday with the bonus from my stock dividends. The timestamp was from 3 days ago. Wednesday night. Mark had told me he was at a board meeting. In the video, the garage door opened. The BMW pulled in. The engine cut off. Mark didn't get out. Instead, the passenger door opened. Shelby leaned over. I watched, my stomach twisting into a knot, as my husband, the man who hadn't kissed me with passion in 5 years, grabbed this woman's face and devoured her. It wasn't a quick peck. It was hungry. Desperate. I missed you, Mark's voice came through the audio, tinny but clear. Caleb had installed a good microphone. I hate dropping you off here, Shelby whined, pulling back. She looked around the garage with disdain. I hate knowing you're going inside to her. It won't be long, Mark reassured her, stroking her cheek. I promise. I'm meeting with the lawyer next week to discuss the mental incompetence strategy. If we can prove she's unfit, the prenup is voidable. She's so boring, Mark, Shelby laughed, tracing a finger down his chest. Does she even know how to please a man? I bet she just lies there. Mark laughed. A cruel, barking sound. It's like sleeping with a corpse. I have to think about you just to get through it. I flinched. I physically flinched watching the screen. I felt Caleb's hand on my shoulder, squeezing tight. Turn it off if you want, he whispered. No, I said, my eyes dry and burning. Keep playing. In the video, things got physical. I won't describe the details, they don't deserve the airtime, but seeing them intimate in the car I paid for, in the house I maintained, was the final nail in the coffin of my marriage. It wasn't love-making. It was lust mixed with malice. They were getting off on the thrill of deceiving me. After a few minutes, they stopped. Mark adjusted his tie in the rearview mirror, the same mirror he used to check his teeth before kissing me goodbye in the mornings. Did you get the papers ready for the loan? Shelby asked, applying fresh lipstick. Yeah, Mark said. I forged her signature last night while she was asleep. It was easy. She leaves her checkbook right on the nightstand. How much? 200,000. A second mortgage on the house. That gives us cash for Greece and enough to set up the apartment in the city until I kick her out. You're bad, Shelby giggled. I love it. I do it for us, Mark smiled. He kissed her forehead. Now go. Take the Uber from the corner so the neighbors don't see. Shelby got out of the car. Mark sat there for a moment, composing himself. He practiced a smile in the mirror, a fake, tired smile. The smile he would wear when he walked into the kitchen 5 minutes later to eat the dinner I had kept warm for him. The video ended. The silence in Caleb's room was deafening. He forged my signature, I said, my voice deadly calm. He took out a second mortgage on a house that is in my name. That's a felony, Caleb said. Fraud. Forgery. Identity theft. Yes, I nodded. It is. I looked at my son. He looked scared, waiting for me to collapse. But I didn't collapse. I felt lighter than I had in years. The confusion was gone. The guilt was gone. The hope that I could save my marriage was gone. All that was left was clarity. Caleb, I said, standing up and smoothing my skirt. Can you copy that video to a USB drive? And the emails? And the banking records? Already done, he said, holding up a small black drive. I made 3 copies. One on the cloud, one on this drive, and one sent to a secure email server I set up. You are brilliant, I told him. Now, I need to make a phone call. To Dad? No, I smiled, a smile that didn't reach my eyes. To Mr. Henderson. Arthur Henderson. My father's old lawyer. A shark in a 3-piece suit who had always hated Mark. He had warned me not to marry him. He was going to enjoy this. What are we going to do? Caleb asked. We are going to give Dad the surprise he deserves, I said. His birthday is in 5 days. He wants a big party? We're going to give him a party he'll never forget. I waited until Caleb went to his room to monitor the feeds before I went to the master bedroom. I needed physical proof to match the digital evidence. Mark kept a wall safe behind the painting of the Connecticut coast in our walk-in closet. He thought I didn't know the combination. He thought I was bad with numbers. I was a certified public accountant before I became a mother. I memorized the combination the first time I saw him punch it in 10 years ago, September 19, 98. Shelby's birthday. I had always told myself it was just a random set of numbers. Denial is a powerful drug. I spun the dial. Click. The heavy door swung open. Inside, stacked neatly, were the papers. I pulled them out, my hands encased in latex cleaning gloves so I wouldn't leave fingerprints. There it was. The home equity line of credit application. The loan amount, $200,000. And at the bottom, my signature. Diane E. Carter. It was a good forgery. He had practiced. But the loop on the D was slightly too wide, and the E was too sharp. To a bank clerk who didn't know me, it would pass. To me, it looked like a crime scene. I took photos of every page with my phone, ensuring the lighting was clear. Then I found the other documents. The exit strategy wasn't just a folder name on a computer, it was a physical file. Inside was a draft of a divorce petition citing irreconcilable differences and spousal instability. There were affidavits from a psychiatrist I had never met, claiming I showed signs of early-onset dementia and paranoia. You monster, I whispered. He was planning to gaslight me into an institution. He wanted to take my freedom, not just my money. He wanted to lock me away so he and Shelby could live in my house with my money. I felt a hot flash of rage crawl up my neck. This wasn't just a bad marriage. This was a predatory attack. I had been sleeping next to a predator for 17 years. I put everything back exactly as I found it. The painting went back on the wall. I checked the angle to make sure it was straight. I went downstairs to the kitchen. I needed to be the perfect wife for a few more days. I started prepping vegetables for dinner. Chop. 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 The rhythm was soothing. My phone buzzed. It was Arthur Henderson. Diane, his gravelly voice was comforting. I got your message. Are you safe? I'm safe, Arthur, I said, cradling the phone between my shoulder and ear as I aggressively chopped a carrot. But I need you to prepare a lawsuit. And a restraining order. And eviction papers. I've been waiting for this call for 15 years, Arthur grunted. What do you have? Everything, I said. Adultery. Fraud. Forgery. Grand larceny involving a minor's trust fund. I have video evidence, audio recordings, and emails. Arthur whistled low. Remind me never to cross you, Diane. Who gathered all this? Caleb. That boy is a genius. Okay, here's the play. Do not confront him yet. If you confront him now, he might try to liquidate assets or run. We need to catch him off guard. We need to serve him when he feels most secure. His birthday, I said. He's hosting a party here on Friday. He invited his business partners, his parents, and Shelby. Perfect, Arthur said. Maximum public humiliation and plenty of witnesses. I'll have the papers ready. I can have a private investigator there to serve him the moment you give the signal. And Diane? I'll call the district attorney about the fraud. We can have police on standby. Do it, I said. One more thing, Arthur added. You need to secure your liquid assets immediately. Open a new account at a different bank. Transfer half of the joint savings, you're legally entitled to it. Leave him the operating account so he doesn't panic, but secure the rest. I'll do it first thing Monday. Good girl. Stay strong. Don't let the mask slip. I hung up just as I heard the front door open. Mark was home. Diane. I'm home, his voice boomed from the hallway, cheerful and confident. Great meeting. I think I closed the deal. My stomach turned. He was lying. He had been in bed with Shelby. I took a deep breath. I channeled every ounce of strength I had. I put a smile on my face, a wide, loving, pathetic smile. That's wonderful, honey. I called out, walking into the hallway to greet him. He was standing there, loosening his tie. He looked handsome, successful, and completely untroubled by conscience. He leaned in to kiss me. I smelled her perfume on him, a cheap vanilla scent masked by breath mints. I didn't pull away. I let him kiss my cheek. You smell nice, I lied. Did you have a good brunch? Fantastic, he grinned. I think this is going to be our best year yet, Diane. Oh, I agree, I said, looking him dead in the eyes. It's definitely going to be a year to remember. The next 4 days were an exercise in psychological warfare. I had to be an Oscar-worthy actress in my own home. Mark was in high spirits. He was practically vibrating with excitement, probably thinking about his upcoming trip to Greece. He was extra affectionate, which was the hardest part to stomach. He bought me flowers, lilies, which he knew I was allergic to. Oh, Mark, they're beautiful, I said, sneezing as I put them in a vase. You're so thoughtful. He didn't even notice the sarcasm. Only the best for my wife. Meanwhile, Caleb and I were running a covert operation. Caleb had set up a command center in the guest room, which we locked. He was editing the video for the party. I'm putting the best clips together, Caleb explained, showing me a timeline on his screen. I'm starting with the emails where he calls you names, then the bank transfers, then the photos of them in college to prove the lie, and finishing with the garage video. It's a narrative arc, Mom. You're enjoying this too much, I said, half scolding, half proud. He called me a burden, Mom, Caleb said, his face serious. I'm just returning the favor. I went to the bank on Monday. I opened a new account in my name only at a credit union across town. I transferred exactly 50% of our joint checking and savings. It was a substantial amount, enough to live on for a year if needed. When I got home, I intercepted the bank alert on Mark's phone while he was in the shower. I deleted the notification. He wouldn't check the balance until the weekend. He was too focused on the big loan coming through. On Tuesday, I met with the event planner for the party. Mark wanted it to be lavish. Spare no expense, he had said. It's a celebration of success. Oh, we're sparing no expense, I told the planner, ordering the most expensive champagne and hiring a string quartet. If he was going down in style, and he was going to pay for his own execution party. On Wednesday, Shelby came over. I just wanted to drop off Mark's gift early, she chirped, breezing into my kitchen. She was holding a box wrapped in gold paper. And I wanted to see if you needed help with the party prep. I know how overwhelmed you get. She smiled that saccharine smile. She was wearing a new bracelet, Cartier. I recognized the charge from the credit card statement Caleb had shown me. That's a lovely bracelet, Shelby, I said, pouring her coffee. Is it a gift? She touched it self-consciously. Oh, this? Yeah, from an admirer. He's very generous. He must be, I said. He must really value you. He does, she said, her eyes glinting. He says I'm his soulmate. Well, I hope he treats you better than my Mark treats me, I sighed, playing the role of the sad, neglected wife. Mark has been so distant lately. I feel like he's hiding something. Shelby's eyes lit up. She leaned in, hungry for gossip. Really? Like what? I don't know, I said, looking down at my hands. I found some papers. I think he might be planning a surprise trip. Shelby froze. A trip? Yes, to Greece, I said innocently. I think he's going to surprise me for our anniversary next month. Isn't that sweet? I watched the panic flit across her face. She thought the trip was for her. Now she was wondering if Mark was playing her too. That sounds wonderful, she stammered. But are you sure it's for you? Who else would it be for? I asked, widening my eyes. We're happily married, aren't we? She left 10 minutes later, looking rattled. I saw her texting furiously in her car before she drove away. Good. Let them turn on each other. Let the paranoia set in. That night, Caleb came into my room. Mom, everything is ready, he said. The lawyer is confirmed. The private investigator will be dressed as a waiter. The police are on standby for the fraud charges. And I've locked the AV system so once I hit play, nothing can stop it. You're a good son, Caleb, I said, kissing his forehead. Are you ready? He asked. Tomorrow is the day. I looked at the dress I had bought for the party. It was red. The same color as the envelope. A power color. I was born ready, I said. Let's burn it down. Little did Mark know, as he slept soundly in the next room, that his perfect life had exactly 24 hours left on the clock. And the person holding the match wasn't just his wife. It was the son he deemed a burden. The Wednesday before the party, Mark announced he had to go on a sudden overnight business trip to Boston. He claimed it was a final negotiation with a venture capital firm that was crucial for his company's expansion. "I hate to leave you right before the big party, babe," he said, checking his reflection in the hallway mirror. He adjusted his tie, a silk Hermes tie I had bought him for Christmas. "But this deal is going to pay for our retirement. It's for us." "I understand, honey," I said, leaning against the doorframe. "You work so hard for this family." It was terrifying how easily the lie rolled off my tongue. A week ago, I would have been packing him snacks, worrying about his drive, checking the weather forecast. Now, I was watching a stranger put on a costume. I had packed his bag for him. I folded his shirts with military precision. And deep in the side pocket of his toiletry kit, I tucked a small note. It wasn't a love note. It was a receipt I found in his trash for a diamond tennis bracelet, the one Shelby was wearing. I just left it there, folded small. A tiny psychological landmine. If he found it, he'd panic. If he didn't, it was just trash. "Call me when you get there," I said as he picked up his bag. "I will." "Might be late though, dinner with the partners runs long," he kissed my forehead. "Don't wait up." As soon as his car pulled out of the driveway, the atmosphere in the house shifted. It wasn't empty, it was electric. "He's gone," I yelled up the stairs. Caleb slid down the banister, something I usually scolded him for, but today I just smiled. He had his tablet in hand. "Tracker is active," Caleb reported. "He's not heading north to Boston. He's heading south. Towards the city." We went into the living room and cast the tracking map onto the big screen TV. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash. We watched the little red dot move down I-95. "He's taking the exit for Greenwich," Caleb noted. "That's where the Ritz-Carlton is." "Of course it is," I said, sipping my tea. "He has expensive taste when he's spending my money." We watched the dot stop at the hotel. Then, another dot appeared. Caleb had hacked Shelby's location data too, using the Find My Friends feature she had stupidly left active on the old iPad she borrowed from us months ago and never logged out of. The two dots merged. "They're together," Caleb said, his voice flat. "Let's see what they're doing," I said. Caleb tapped a few keys. "I can't get video inside the hotel, obviously. But remember the keylogger on his laptop? If he logs into the hotel Wi-Fi." A few minutes later, a ping sounded. Mark was online. He wasn't working. He was browsing luxury real estate listings in Greece. Then, he opened his banking app. We watched in real time on our screen as he transferred $5,000 from his business account to a jewelry store in downtown Greenwich. "Another gift?" Caleb asked, disgusted. "Probably matching earrings," I said. "He's predictable." Then, an email draft appeared on the screen. Mark was typing it but hadn't sent it yet. It was addressed to his lawyer. Subject: the house transfer. Body: Arthur, I need the deed transfer papers ready for Friday night. I'm going to get her to sign them during the party. I'll frame it as a tax-saving restructuring for the estate. She'll sign anything if I tell her it helps the family. Once the house is in the LLC's name, we can move forward with the eviction notice citing her mental health decline. Let's get this done. I stared at the words. She'll sign anything. He thought I was a golden retriever. Loyal, dumb, and eager to please. He's really going to try to trick you into signing away the house at his birthday party, Caleb said, looking at me with wide eyes. That's evil. It's arrogant, I corrected. He thinks he's the smartest person in the room. He thinks I'm just the little woman who nods and smiles. I looked at the screen, at the map showing my husband and his mistress in a 5-star hotel, spending our savings, plotting my destruction. Caleb, I said. Zoom in on the hotel. He did. Take a screenshot. Time stamp it. Save it to the evidence folder. Done. Now, I said, standing up. Let's order pizza. The most expensive one they have. And let's watch a movie. We have work to do tomorrow, but tonight, we celebrate the fact that we are smarter than they are. We sat there, eating pepperoni pizza, watching the little red dots on the screen. It was macabre, yes. But it was also fueling me. Every dollar he spent, every lie he typed, was just adding years to his sentence and zeros to my settlement check. He thought he was on a romantic getaway. He was actually digging his own grave, and I was holding the shovel. Thursday afternoon brought a different kind of storm. Mark's parents, Robert and Linda. They arrived in their silver Lexus, carrying an air of judgment that hit you the moment they stepped out of the car. Robert was a retired surgeon who thought he was God, and Linda was a socialite who thought she was the Queen of England. They had never liked me. I was too quiet, too suburban, not flashy enough for the Carter brand. Diane, Linda said as I opened the door. She didn't hug me. She offered her cheek, expecting a kiss. I obliged. She smelled of expensive floral perfume and condescension. You look tired. Have you been sleeping? I've been busy preparing for Mark's party, Linda, I said, forcing a smile. Well, make sure you get some rest, she critiqued, scanning my outfit, jeans and a blouse. You don't want to look washed out in the photos tomorrow. Mark needs you to look vibrant. Like Shelby. There it was. Not 5 minutes in, and the comparison began. Shelby is coming, isn't she? Robert asked, dropping his suitcases in the hallway without asking if I wanted help. Wonderful girl. So much energy. Yes, she's coming, I said. She's very excited. We sat down for tea in the living room. It was excruciating. Caleb came down to say hello, polite as always. Hello, Grandma. Hello, Grandpa. Hello, Caleb, Robert said, barely looking up from his phone. Still playing with those computers? You need to get out more, son. Mark was captain of the football team at your age. I like computers, Grandpa, Caleb said firmly. Well, it won't get you far with the ladies, Robert chuckled, winking at Linda. Mark had girls lining up around the block. Caleb is doing just fine, I interjected, my protective instinct flaring. He's top of his class. Linda waved her hand dismissively. Grades are fine, Diane, but social standing is everything. Shelby was telling us she's worried about Caleb. She thinks he's becoming withdrawn. She suggested maybe a military academy would do him good. I froze. My teacup rattled against the saucer. Shelby suggested what? A military academy, Linda repeated, as if discussing the weather. Just to toughen him up. Mark agrees, actually. They were discussing it at lunch last week. My blood ran cold. They were discussing sending my son away. My in-laws, my husband, and his mistress were plotting to exile my child so they could play happy family without the burden. I see, I said, my voice dangerously calm. And you think that's appropriate? For a cousin to be making parenting decisions? Oh, don't be so sensitive, Diane, Linda sighed. Shelby just cares. She's practically family. Honestly, sometimes I think she understands Mark better than you do. They have such a spark. A shared history. Yes, Robert chimed in. They were quite the item in college. We always thought. He trailed off, catching a sharp look from Linda. You always thought what? I pushed. Nothing, Linda said quickly. Just that they were good friends. But Diane, really, you should take a page out of her book. She's so supportive of Mark's ambitions. You tend to be a bit of a drag on him, dear. Always worrying about budgets and safety. Mark needs to fly. I looked at these two people sitting on my sofa, drinking my tea, in the house my father paid for. They knew. Deep down, they had to know. Or maybe they just didn't care. They preferred the fantasy of Shelby, the young, exciting sycophant, to the reality of me, the wife who actually did the work. They were enablers. They had created Mark, nurtured his narcissism, and now they were feeding it. I'll keep that in mind, I said, standing up. I have to check on the caterer. I walked into the kitchen and gripped the counter until my knuckles turned white. They wanted Shelby? They wanted Mark to fly? Fine. I was going to give them exactly what they wanted. I was going to let Mark fly right off a cliff. Caleb walked in quietly and stood beside me. He had heard everything from the hallway. They knew about the military school idea, he whispered. That's what was in the exit strategy file. The boarding school in Alabama. You are not going anywhere, I told him fiercely. The only people leaving this life are them. Grandma asked me if I liked Aunt Shelby, Caleb said, his face twisted in disgust. She said, wouldn't it be fun if Aunt Shelby lived closer? They are trying to groom you, I realized. They are trying to normalize her presence so when Mark swaps me for her, the transition seems natural. It was sick. It was a coordinated effort to replace me. Don't worry, Caleb said, opening the fridge to get a soda. I put a laxative in Grandpa's special decaf coffee blend. He's going to have a rough night. I looked at my son. I should have reprimanded him. I should have told him that was wrong. Instead, I smirked. How much did you put in? Enough, Caleb grinned. Good boy. Friday morning arrived with a sky the color of a bruise, gray and ominous. It was perfect. Mark had returned from his business trip late Thursday night, feigning exhaustion but smelling of Shelby's vanilla perfume and hotel soap. He was currently in the shower, singing. He always sang when he thought he was winning. Downstairs, the house was transforming. The event planners were setting up tables with white linens, crystal glasses, and elaborate floral arrangements. It looked like a wedding reception. Diane! Mark called from the top of the stairs, wrapped in a towel. Where are my cufflinks? The gold ones. On your dresser, darling. I called back. I was in the living room with the AV technicians. Or rather, Caleb was with the AV technicians. So, the projector is linked to this HDMI port? Caleb asked the guy, playing the role of the curious kid. Yeah, kid. Don't touch it, okay? Your dad wants a slideshow of his achievements running on a loop, the tech guy said, chewing gum. Cool, Caleb said. I made a special video for him. Can I test it? Sure, just make sure you switch it back to the main input before the guests arrive. Caleb nodded innocently. As soon as the tech guy walked away to get a cable, Caleb inserted a small device into the back of the receiver. It was a hardware lock. Once he triggered his video, no remote control in the room would be able to stop it. The only way to kill it would be to cut the power to the entire house. We're in, Caleb whispered to me as I walked by carrying a tray of appetizers. Good, I whispered back. I went to the front door to greet the private investigator Arthur had hired. His name was Mr. Black, a cliché, I know, but fitting. He was dressed in a waiter's uniform. Mrs. Carter, he asked quietly. Yes. You have the papers? Taped to the bottom of the serving tray, he murmured. I'll be circulating all night. Just give me the signal. The signal is when the video ends, I said. When the lights come up, you serve him. Understood. I checked my phone. A text from Arthur Henderson, police are aware. Fraud unit is on standby. They will wait for your call to 911 or a disturbance report. Don't put yourself in physical danger, Diane. I wasn't afraid of physical danger. Mark was a coward. He wouldn't hit me in front of 50 witnesses. His reputation was his god, he wouldn't desecrate it. By 5 p.m., I was in my room getting ready. I had chosen a dress I bought specifically for tonight. It wasn't the beige or pastel colors Mark liked me in. It was a deep, blood-red silk gown. It was fitted, structured, and bold. It was a dress that said, "I am not a victim." I applied my makeup carefully. Waterproof mascara, just in case, though I didn't plan on crying. Red lipstick to match the dress. I looked in the mirror. The woman staring back wasn't the Diane of yesterday. The Diane of yesterday was worried about hydrangeas and making everyone happy. This Diane was a Valkyrie. Mark walked in, already dressed in his tuxedo. He stopped when he saw me. "Wow," he said, blinking. "That's a bold color for you, isn't it? A bit flashy? It's a celebration, isn't it?" I said, turning to face him. I thought I should dress for the occasion. He frowned slightly, sensing a shift but unable to place it. "You look good. But maybe change the lipstick? It's a bit aggressive." "I like it," I said firmly. "I'm keeping it." He checked his watch, dismissing me. "Fine. Whatever. Just make sure the champagne flows. My investors from the city are coming. And Shelby is bringing her new boyfriend, some imaginary guy she made up to make me jealous, I bet." He laughed at his own joke. "Actually, I think Shelby is coming alone," I said. "She told me she wanted to focus on family tonight." Mark's eyes lit up. "Did she? That's sweet of her." "Yes," I said, walking past him and brushing a piece of lint off his lapel. "She really loves this family. She wants to be a part of it so badly." "She is family," Mark corrected automatically. "Right," I smiled. "Family." I walked out of the bedroom, my heels clicking on the hardwood floor like the ticking of a clock. The countdown had begun. 2 hours until the guests arrived. 3 hours until the toast. 4 hours until his life ended. I went to Caleb's room one last time. He was dressed in a suit, looking so grown up it made my heart ache. "Ready, partner?" I asked. He held up the remote control. "Ready, Mom." We walked down the stairs together, hand in hand, into the arena. Author's note: I want to take you back for a moment to the conversation Caleb and I had late the night before the party. It's important because it wasn't about revenge. It was about grief. The house was quiet on Thursday night after Mark had gone to sleep. I found Caleb sitting on the roof of the porch, climbing out through his window like he used to do when he was 10. I climbed out after him, ignoring the chill in the air. "Can't sleep?" I asked, sitting beside him on the shingles. "No," he said, staring up at the stars. "Mom, are you scared?" "About tomorrow?" I asked. "Yeah. About everything changing. Once we play that video, there's no going back. Dad will hate us. Grandma and Grandpa will hate us. We'll be alone." I wrapped my arm around his shoulders. He felt so thin, yet so strong. "We won't be alone, Caleb. We'll have each other. And we'll have the truth. Living in a lie is lonelier than being alone with the truth." He was silent for a long time. Then, I heard a sniffle. "I miss him," Caleb whispered, his voice cracking. "I know he's a jerk. I know he stole my money. But I miss the dad who used to teach me how to ride a bike. Before Shelby. Before the money. Was he always fake? Or did he just change?" My heart broke into 1,000 pieces. This was the tragedy of it all. Mark wasn't just losing a wife, he was destroying a boy who idolized him. I don't know, honey, I said honestly. I think people make choices. Small bad choices that turn into big bad choices. Your dad chose money and ego over us a long time ago. But that doesn't mean the memories you have aren't real. He loved you the best way he knew how. But his best isn't good enough anymore. Caleb wiped his eyes with his sleeve. I don't want to be like him, Mom. I'm scared that because I have his DNA, I'm going to be a liar too. I grabbed his face in my hands and made him look at me. Listen to me, Caleb Carter. You are nothing like him. You are kind. You are loyal. You are protecting your mother. Your father protects only himself. You have my heart, Caleb. You have my conscience. He nodded, taking a shaky breath. Okay. Tomorrow isn't about hate, I told him, though I knew hate was fueling me. It's about justice. It's about standing up for ourselves because he won't. You're the man of the house now, Caleb. Not because you have to be, but because you proved you are. The video. Caleb hesitated. I put in the clip where he calls me a mistake. Are you sure? It's really mean. He said it, I said hard. People need to hear it. He needs to hear it. We can't protect him from his own words anymore. Okay, Caleb said. He looked at the moon. Mom? Yeah? When this is over, can we get a dog? Dad never let me have one because of the shedding. I laughed, a genuine laugh that bubbled up through the pain. Caleb, when this is over, we can get a pack of dogs. We can get a golden retriever that sheds everywhere. We can paint the walls purple. We can do whatever we want. Cool, he smiled. We sat there for a while longer, just a mother and son on a roof, waiting for the world to end so we could build a new one. I love you, Mom, he said. I love you too, kiddo. Now let's go inside. We have a big day tomorrow. That moment gave me the strength I needed. When I walked into that party in my red dress, I wasn't just a scorned woman. I was a mother bear. And God help anyone who threatened her cub. The doorbell rang at 6 p.m. sharp. The first guests were the B-listers, Mark's junior associates and neighbors we barely spoke to. They came bearing expensive wine and fake compliments. Diane. You look stunning. Mark. Happy birthday, big guy. I played my part perfectly. I circulated the room with a flute of champagne, which was actually ginger ale. I needed a clear head. I laughed at jokes that weren't funny. I thanked people for coming. By 7 p.m., the house was packed. The string quartet was playing a soft rendition of Vivaldi. The catering staff was passing around lobster tails and caviar blinis. It smelled of money and expensive perfume. Then, she arrived. Shelby walked in like she owned the place. She was wearing a dress that was inappropriate. It was white. A long, white, lace gown that looked suspiciously like a casual wedding dress. It was a statement. She was the bride-in-waiting. She walked straight to Mark, who was holding court near the fireplace. She kissed him on the cheek, lingering just a second too long. Happy birthday, cousin, she said, her voice carrying over the music. Shelby. Mark beamed, his eyes raking over her body. You made it. You look incredible. I tried, she giggled, twirling. I walked over, my red dress rustling. Hello, Shelby. That's a brave choice of color. Very bridal. Shelby's smile faltered for a microsecond before recovering. Oh, it's just ivory, Diane. It represents innocence. You look festive. Very bold. I feel bold, I said. Mark's parents, Robert and Linda, rushed over to Shelby, practically pushing me aside. Shelby, darling. Look at you. Linda cooed. Mark, get her a drink. Don't just stand there. I watched them. The four of them. Mark, Shelby, and his parents. They formed a tight circle, laughing, touching arms, excluding me in my own living room. They looked like a family. I was the outsider. Enjoying the party? A voice asked beside me. It was Arthur Henderson, my lawyer. He was wearing a tuxedo, but his eyes were sharp as flint. It's lovely, Arthur, I said. Are the police here? Parked down the street, he murmured, sipping his scotch. Mr. Black is over there by the bar, looking ready to serve. Good. Mark is trying to get people to sign an NDA before he shows his presentation, Arthur chuckled. He thinks he's unveiling a tech breakthrough. The arrogance is astounding. He's unveiling his own funeral, I said. At 7:45 p.m., Mark started clinking a spoon against his champagne glass. The room quieted down. Everyone, if I could have your attention. Mark shouted, his face flushed with alcohol and ego. Thank you all for coming. Tonight isn't just about my 50th birthday. It's about the future. He put his arm around me, pulling me into a side hug. I stiffened but didn't pull away. I have the most supportive wife in the world, he lied to the crowd. Diane, you are my rock. And to show my appreciation, and to secure our future, I have a little announcement to make regarding our estate. Here it comes. The trap. He waved to his assistant, who brought over a leather folder. We are restructuring our assets to ensure that our family, and our extended family, he nodded at Shelby, are taken care of for generations. Diane and I are signing a historic agreement tonight. He opened the folder on the small podium. It was the loan document and the deed transfer, cleverly hidden under a cover sheet that said Family Trust. Diane, honey, he said, handing me a gold pen. Would you do the honors? Just sign right there on the X, and we can start the next chapter of our lives. The room held its breath. Shelby was practically vibrating with anticipation. Linda was nodding encouragingly. I took the pen. I looked at the paper. I looked at Mark. You want me to sign this? I asked, my voice amplified by the silence. Yes, honey. Just like we discussed, he said, his eyes hardening slightly. We hadn't discussed it. That was the threat. Sign it, or make a scene. I looked at the crowd. 50 people watching. I can't sign this, Mark, I said clearly. Why not? He laughed nervously. It's just paperwork. Because, I said, dropping the pen on the floor. It made a sharp clack. I don't sign documents that grant a second mortgage on my house to fund your mistress's lifestyle. The silence wasn't just quiet, it was a vacuum. You could hear a pin drop. Mark's face went purple. Diane, you're drunk. Ignore her, everyone. She's been having these episodes. I'm not drunk, Mark, I said, stepping away from him. And I'm not having an episode. But Caleb has a gift for you. I think we should watch it before we do any signing. I looked at Caleb across the room. He was standing by the projector, his hand on the laptop. Caleb, no! Mark barked, stepping toward him. Don't you dare! Happy birthday, Dad, Caleb said into the microphone he had set up. He hit the spacebar. The lights in the living room abruptly cut out. The motorized blackout shades descended over the windows, plunging the room into darkness. A few guests gasped. What is this? Linda's shrill voice cut through the dark. Mark, do something. Caleb! Turn the lights back on. Mark shouted. I could hear him stumbling toward the AV table. But then, the giant projection screen descended from the ceiling, glowing with a bright white light that blinded everyone for a second. The Truth About Mark Carter. The title appeared in bold, black letters. The first sound was a recording. It was Mark's voice, crystal clear. "She's clueless. I could rob her blind and she'd thank me for it. She's just a cash cow, Shelby. Once I milk her dry, we're gone." A collective gasp rippled through the room. I saw Mark freeze. He was standing halfway to the projector, illuminated by the light of his own betrayal. "Turn it off," he screamed, lunging for the laptop. But Caleb had moved. He was standing behind Mr. Black, the burly private investigator, who simply crossed his arms and blocked Mark's path. "Technical difficulties, sir?" Mr. Black asked calmly. "That's fake," Mark yelled, turning to the guests. "It's AI. Deep fake. My son is playing a sick prank." Then the video changed. It wasn't audio anymore. It was the screen capture of the emails. From Mark to Shelby. "I forged her signature last night. $200,000 secured. Greece is a go. I can't wait to get away from that sagging, boring bitch." The text was zoomed in, massive on the wall. Every person in the room read it. I saw Mark's business partners exchanging horrified looks. I saw the neighbors covering their mouths. Then came the photos. The college yearbook photo of Mark and Shelby. The homecoming king and queen. The cousin lie appeared on the screen. Next, a montage of bank transfers. Transfer to Shelby Vance, $5,000. Transfer to Shelby Vance, $10,000. Withdrawal from Caleb's college fund, $15,000. Withdrawal from Caleb's college fund, $20,000. "He stole from his son," someone whispered loudly. It was Mrs. Higgins from next door. "That's despicable." Mark was frantic now. He ran to the wall outlet and yanked the cord. The screen went dark. "There," he panted. "It's over. Everyone, please, my wife is mentally unstable, she programmed this." But the screen flickered back on. Caleb had connected it to a battery backup unit concealed under the table. "You can't stop the truth, Dad," Caleb said from the corner. The video cut to the garage footage. The night vision green. It showed Mark and Shelby in the car. It showed the kiss. The groping. The laughter. "I hate dropping you off here. I hate knowing you're going inside to her. It won't be long. Once I declare her incompetent, the house is ours." Shelby, who had been standing near the fireplace, suddenly tried to bolt for the front door. But the door was blocked by two of the catering staff, who were actually off-duty officers Arthur had coordinated. "Where are you going, cousin?" I called out. Shelby turned, her face a mask of terror. The innocent white dress now looked like a costume in a horror movie. The video ended with a final clip. It was Mark, talking to his mother, Linda, on speakerphone. "Mom, don't worry. Diane won't suspect a thing. Just keep playing nice. Once I get the inheritance money, I'll buy you that condo in Florida. Good boy, Mark. Just make sure you get rid of her quickly. She's such a drag." The lights slammed back on. The room was silent. Every eye was fixed on Mark, Shelby, and Linda. Linda was clutching her pearls, her face pale as a sheet. Robert was staring at the floor. Mark looked like a cornered rat. I stepped into the center of the room. My red dress felt like armor. "So," I said, my voice steady. "That is the man you came to celebrate. A fraud. A thief. A liar. And an adulterer." Mark looked at me, his eyes full of hate. "You bitch," he hissed. "You ruined everything." "No, Mark," I said. "You did." The tension in the room was so thick you could choke on it. Mark stood there, stripped of his dignity, his secrets flayed open for the world to see. He looked at his business partners, the investors he needed desperately. "Gentlemen," Mark stammered, holding out his hands. "Please. This is a domestic dispute. It has nothing to do with business. My wife is hysterical." "Hysterical?" One of the investors, a stern man named Mr. Henderson, no relation to my lawyer, stepped forward. "Mark, you just admitted on tape to embezzlement and fraud. You forged signatures. We can't do business with you. The deal is dead." "No. Wait," Mark pleaded. "And neither can we," said another guest, the president of the local Rotary Club. "You're done in this town, Mark." Mark turned to me, his face twisting from panic to rage. He took a step toward me, his fists clenched. "You think this is funny?" he screamed, spit flying from his mouth. "You think you're smart? You're nothing without me. Who paid for this house? Who paid for that dress?" "I did," I said calmly. "With my inheritance. With the money you've been stealing." He lunged. "I'll kill you." Before he could get within 5 feet of me, Mr. Black stepped in. He didn't even have to hit Mark. He just grabbed Mark's wrist and twisted it behind his back, forcing him to his knees. "That's enough, sir," Mr. Black said. Shelby started screaming. "I didn't do anything. I didn't know. He lied to me too." I turned to her. "Shelby, stop. We saw the emails. You plotted to put me in a mental institution. You plotted to steal my garden. You're not a victim. You're an accomplice." She burst into fake tears, looking around for sympathy. She found none. Even Mark's parents were backing away from her. I looked around the room. I saw the faces of my neighbors, my friends, and even strangers. They weren't looking at me with pity anymore. They were looking at me with respect. I walked over to where Caleb was standing. I put my arm around him. "This is the reality of my life," I said, addressing the room, but in my mind, I was addressing the thousands of women who go through this. I was told I was crazy. I was told I was old. I was told I was a burden. But tonight, the truth is out. I looked straight into the camera lens of the videographer, who I had instructed to keep rolling. Start of CTA. If you are watching this, and you have ever been lied to, gaslight, or made to feel small by someone you trusted, look at me now. Look at this man on his knees. Evil only wins when we stay silent. I need you to stand with me. If you believe that justice is worth fighting for, if you want to see these people face the consequences of their actions, please like this video right now. And go to the comments and type the number 1. Type 1 to tell me you are with me. Type 1 to show Caleb that doing the right thing matters. Your support means the world to us. It tells us we aren't alone. Please, hit that like button and comment 1 so I know you've got my back. Now, let me show you what happened when the police arrived. End of CTA. "Mr. Black," I said, turning back to the investigator. "I think it's time to serve the papers." Mr. Black reached into his jacket pocket, not the tray this time, and pulled out a thick envelope. He dropped it on the floor in front of Mark. "Mark Carter, you are served," he said. "Divorce petition. Restraining order. And eviction notice. You have 30 minutes to vacate the premises. You can't kick me out." Mark spat from the floor. "This is my house." "Actually," I said, "the deed is in my name. And thanks to your failure to get me to sign that paper tonight, it stays in my name." Just then, sirens wailed outside. Blue and red lights flashed through the windows, painting the walls in chaotic colors. "And that," I said, checking my watch, "would be the police." Happy birthday, Mark. The police didn't knock. The front door burst open, and 4 uniformed officers entered, led by a detective I recognized, Detective Miller from the fraud unit. Arthur Henderson had really pulled some strings. Mark Carter? Detective Miller barked. Mark, still on his knees held by Mr. Black, looked up. This is a misunderstanding. My wife is having a breakdown. Stand up, the detective ordered. Mr. Black let him go. Mark stood, straightening his suit, trying to regain some shred of authority. Officer, I am a respected businessman, Mark began. Mr. Carter, you are under arrest for grand larceny, bank fraud, forgery in the 2nd degree, and identity theft, the detective recited, pulling out handcuffs. We have the digital evidence provided by your son and the physical documents provided by your wife. Identity theft? Mark paled. Taking out a loan in someone else's name is identity theft, sir. Turn around. Click. Click. The sound of handcuffs ratcheting tight was the most beautiful music I had ever heard. Better than the string quartet. Shelby Vance, the detective called out. Shelby was trying to blend into the curtains. I have to go. Ma'am, you are also under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and accessory to grand larceny. We have records of the transfers to your accounts. No! Shelby screamed as a female officer grabbed her arm. He gave me that money. It was a gift. I didn't know it was stolen. You can tell it to the judge, the officer said, cuffing her. And by the way, nice dress. As they were dragged out of the house, Mark stopped in front of me. He looked pathetic. His eyes were red, his hair messed up. Diane, he pleaded, his voice cracking. Diane, please. Don't let them take me. I'm your husband. We can fix this. I'll go to therapy. I'll cut Shelby off. Just drop the charges. I looked at him. I looked for any ounce of love left in my heart. I searched for the man I married. But all I saw was a stranger who had tried to destroy me. The man I married died a long time ago, Mark, I said softly. You're just the thief who stole his face. Goodbye. Mom! Dad! Mark yelled toward his parents. Help me! Call a lawyer! Robert and Linda were huddled in the corner. When Mark looked at them, Robert turned his back. Linda pretended to be examining a flower arrangement. We didn't know anything about this, Linda stammered to the nearby guests. We are shocked. Absolutely shocked. They were disowning him to save their own reputations. It was brutal. It was exactly what they deserved. As the police car doors slammed shut outside, a cheer went up in the room. My neighbors were clapping. Caleb walked over and high-fived the tech guy. Okay, folks, I announced, my voice trembling slightly as the adrenaline dump hit me. The show is over. But the champagne is paid for, and the food is delicious. Please, stay. Eat. Drink. Celebrate freedom. The party continued, but with a different vibe. It was a liberation party. People came up to me, hugging me, apologizing for not noticing sooner. You are a brave woman, Diane, Mr. Henderson, the investor said. If you ever need a job. I hear you're a hell of an accountant. I might take you up on that, I smiled. Later that night, after everyone had left, Caleb and I sat in the middle of the messy living room, eating leftover cake. We did it, Caleb said, his mouth full of frosting. We did it, I agreed. Did you see his face when the email popped up? Caleb giggled. I did, I laughed. Did you see Shelby trying to run in that dress? We laughed until we cried. It was a hysterical, exhausting release. Mom, Caleb said, becoming serious. What happens now? Now, I said, we clean up the mess. And then we live. The next 6 months were a blur of courtrooms, lawyers, and paperwork. But unlike the previous years of my life, I was in control. Mark's bail was set at $500,000. He couldn't pay it because I had frozen our joint assets, and his parents refused to put up their house as collateral. He spent 3 months in jail awaiting trial. When the trial came, it was swift. The evidence Caleb had gathered was irrefutable. The video, the keylogger data, the GPS logs, it was a prosecutor's dream. Mark pleaded guilty to avoid a longer sentence. He got 5 years in federal prison for bank fraud and identity theft, plus mandatory restitution. He has to pay back every cent he stole from Caleb's college fund, plus interest. Shelby turned on him immediately. She took a plea deal, testifying against Mark to avoid jail time. She got 3 years probation and community service. But her reputation was destroyed. Her name was all over the local news as the fake cousin gold digger. Last I heard, she moved back to Ohio and is working as a waitress. The divorce was finalized last week. I got everything. The judge, a woman who I suspect had dealt with men like Mark before, ruled that because Mark had used marital funds to facilitate his affair and commit fraud, he forfeited his share of the marital assets. I kept the house. I kept my pension. I kept full custody of Caleb, with Mark getting only supervised visitation rights once he's released, if Caleb wants to see him. I don't, Caleb told the judge. Not until he apologizes for real. Mark's parents, Robert and Linda, tried to wiggle back into our lives once the dust settled. They sent a card for Thanksgiving. Dear Diane, we hope you can find it in your heart to forgive. We are family, after all. I burned the card in the fireplace. I blocked their numbers. I cut them out like the cancer they were. Financially, it was tight for a bit. Mark had drained a lot of cash. But I took Mr. Henderson up on his offer. I started consulting for his firm, helping women audit their family finances during divorces. I became a forensic accountant for betrayed wives. Business is booming. The house feels different now. We painted over the beige walls. The living room is now a soft sage green. Caleb's room is painted a deep navy blue. We ripped out the carpets Shelby had walked on and put in hardwood. And yes, we got a dog. His name is Buster. He's a golden retriever mix we found at the shelter. He sheds everywhere. He sleeps on Mark's side of the bed. I love him. But the biggest change is in Caleb. He's not the angry, withdrawn boy he was. He's happy. He joined a white hat hacking club, ethical hacking only, I made him promise. He walks with his head high. He knows he saved his mother. He knows he's a hero. You know, Mom, he said to me the other day while we were walking Buster. I think we're better off. I know we are, I said. We were free. The heavy blanket of lies was lifted. I wasn't wondering where my husband was anymore. I wasn't doubting my sanity. I was just Diane. And that was enough. But there was one last thing to do. One last promise to keep to myself. 2 weeks ago, Caleb and I boarded a plane at JFK. We turned left when we entered the cabin. First class. Delta Airlines. I sat in seat 1A. Caleb was in 1B. I looked at the ticket in my hand. Passenger, Diane Carter. Passenger, Caleb Carter. No blank spaces. No guests. Just us. We flew to Athens, then took a connecting flight to an island in the Aegean Sea. Santorini. It was more beautiful than the pictures. The white buildings clinging to the cliffs, the blue domes matching the sky, the water so clear it looked like glass. We checked into the hotel, the same hotel Mark had booked for Shelby. But I cancelled his reservation and rebooked it under my name. I used the refund from his cancelled ticket to pay for our excursions. On our second night, we sat on the terrace of a restaurant in Oia, watching the famous sunset. The sky turned purple and gold, setting the ocean on fire. "This is cool," Caleb said, eating a massive plate of calamari. "Way better than the cafeteria." "It really is," I smiled, sipping a glass of Acertico wine. I looked out at the caldera. I thought about Mark, sitting in a cell in upstate New York, eating prison food. I wondered if he thought about this view. I wondered if he regretted it. But then, I stopped wondering. Because thinking about him was giving him rent-free space in my head. And my head was prime real estate now. "Mom," Caleb said. "What are you thinking about?" "I'm thinking about a business idea," I said. "The forensic accounting thing?" "Bigger," I said. "I want to start a nonprofit. The Red Envelope Foundation. To help women who are victims of financial abuse. To help them hire lawyers, find hidden assets, and get out." Caleb's eyes lit up. "I can build the website. I can make it secure so their husbands can't track their browsing history." "I was hoping you'd say that," I grinned. We clinked our glasses, wine for me, Fanta for him. "To the red envelope," Caleb said. "To the truth," I replied. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt a sense of peace so profound it brought tears to my eyes. I had been through hell. I had been betrayed by the person who was supposed to love me most. I had been humiliated, robbed, and gaslight. But I hadn't broken. I looked at my son, laughing at a stray cat that was begging for fish. He was safe. His future was secure. I took a deep breath of the salty air. I wasn't just a survivor. I was a conqueror. And to anyone listening to this story, to any woman who feels like something is wrong, who feels like she's being called crazy, who found a receipt or a text message that doesn't add up. Trust your gut. Trust your children. And never, ever let anyone tell you that you are powerless. You have no idea how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have. My name is Diane. I found a red envelope, and it destroyed my life. But it also gave me a new one. And this new life? It's beautiful. Thank you for listening. And so, Diane's journey reminds us of an essential truth: resilience is born in the darkest moments, and strength is often discovered when we least expect it. Her story is not just about betrayal and justice, it's a testament to the power of self-worth and the courage to reclaim it. Diane didn't just fight for her own dignity, she stood as a protector for her son, proving that love and determination can dismantle even the most calculated cruelty. This tale teaches us that in the face of deception, it's critical to trust your instincts, seek the truth, and surround yourself with allies who believe in you. It's a reminder that no matter how deeply someone tries to diminish your light, your power lies in choosing to rise above, rebuild, and redefine your life on your own terms. Diane's victory wasn't just legal or financial, it was emotional and spiritual, a triumph of truth over manipulation. What about you? Have you ever faced a challenge that tested your strength or forced you to rediscover your worth? Share your thoughts below or simply comment good if this story inspired you. Let's celebrate resilience together.